It takes a brave and independent mindset to go tiny. If you are trying to figure out your tiny pivot, this podcast is here to inspire and connect you with the other unconventional, gritty, inspirational people within this community. I am Laura Lynch, your tiny house friend and host. On this show, we are always going to come back to money because as a financial planner, this is the question I hear the most. How do I make this work for me financially? Well, that's my jam, so jump in, let's go. New episodes drop every Thursday. Well, welcome to Less House, More Moolah podcast. Amanda and Dane, so thrilled to be here in your home. You and I connected originally because one of my earliest podcast guests, my neighbor Kate, posted about your work on Facebook. And so that's kind of how I tracked you down through the website and said, hey, I'm going to be in town. Let's get together. So thanks so much for sharing a little bit about your home with my audience today. Would you please introduce yourself, where we are, and a little bit about your story for listeners?
I am Amanda Speer. I moved here with Dane almost 14 years ago, and we are sitting in our finished now Earthship, which we built from the ground up. And I mean, we just finished it yesterday.
I'm Dain Daller, and we're in the back of the kitchen of the sizable project that we're now pretty much done with.
Yeah.
Yeah, so awesome. So tell us a little bit about your journey to building your own home. I mean, you've lived other places and had other homes in the past. So how did you come to this place where you wanted to build your own space?
We moved here from Chicago, and we were renting, and we kind of got sick of that, like just having these rundown apartments and then not wanting to fix them ourselves. And then we didn't really have the money or careers or anything to like get a mortgage to buy anything. So, and we kind of had it with the big city, I guess. So we ended up here and were able to buy some land, and we kind of just dove in and step by step.
Yeah. All the stars aligned. We found the land and learned about Earthships the same day. And
same week at least.
Yeah. And we didn't have any money. And we realized that if you're building a house and you have time and energy, the Earthship is a good way to go. And then, so it
was also a good way that we thought we could go in without really any experience and be able to have it not fall down or something like that. Like there's a lot of leeway. You can be it's pretty forgiving.
Yeah. When your walls are 2.5 feet thick and weigh like 3,000 tons, you can easily build on top of it without it having problems.
Yeah, you don't really have to be an engineer or anything. Just as long as you don't make some really insane errors, but
so awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I love the sweat equity piece of things and talk about this a lot because not only does building your own home allow you to get a little ahead from a financial perspective, but it also allows you just to build so much confidence within yourself. Like if you can build your own home, you can build pretty much anything.
Right. It's a great way to, I don't know, it's after I did it or while I was doing it, I thought, hey, everybody should do this. And it really is how you should live. Instead of like complaining about this house you bought, like go build one. And it's rewarding. And every way, the confidence, the skills, and then, the outcome.
But also terrifying, right? When you first get started. So how did you build up the confidence and enough knowledge just to even get started? Because getting started of anything is the hardest part. So how did you kind of build up enough knowledge and confidence to say, yes, we're gonna take a stab at this?
Dain learned at the Earthship community. He did the internship and learned how to do some of the basic stuff. And then we were living in the back of our truck at the top of our driveway, so we had to do it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that much confidence, it was necessity. It was like, okay, do this, or not have a house for even longer.
Yeah, there was a few moments where we maybe thought, what are we doing? Is this gonna work? Like, are we gonna enjoy it long term? Like, all this stuff. But the satisfying aspect of accomplishing all the steps as they went definitely outweighed that. And luckily, we never really got tired of being out here in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Initially moving out here from a big city, we thought, well, we might miss some of that stuff. Who knows? But let's try it. And it worked out.
Awesome. So if there are listeners out there who are curious about some sort of alternative building method or, kind of tackling building your own, what would you say to them?
Start as soon as possible because no one's getting younger, and go for it. I would say go for it. And if you can't physically do it, hire somebody or find friends. But really building your own house we don't have a mortgage. It's a pretty magical thing. It's like people in this country live their whole lives paying for the house that they're inside of. And ours is done and we paid for it as we went. So slow and steady. We referred to all the materials and all the cost of building, which isn't free. We referred to it as rent the whole time. But at the end of it, we have a house.
And what do you think about, you have chosen to live in a place where you can build your own home. This is not something that everybody has the option to because people are tied to their jobs and that sort of thing. What do you think about that trade-off, and how do you think about that for folks as far as kind of kind of going out to a place where there aren't building codes versus staying in town? How does that debate play out in your mind, do you think?
I guess to each their own. If you want to move out to a rural area and have an alternative kind of house, then that's what you want and you should do that.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to do that.
Our best friends built their house not only in Santa Fe, but in the historic district. So they had so many rules and regulations, but they did it, and it was just a different hurdle they had to jump over. And to each their own. Now they have a beautiful house that's in Santa Fe.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about how building your own home played into your freedom to follow your artistic path. You're both artists. So I love this for creative folks because oftentimes the income isn't the same as, say, corporate folks. So how do you see this building your own home and creating this lifestyle for yourself as enabling or contributing to your ability to follow your artistic path?
Rent is such a big drain on our peers who do the same things as us that they can't go 100%. So I think it's the rent aspect. What is rent nowadays? It's like 30% of your income if you're like middle class, I think. So it's like pretty daunting. So we have 30% more for savings and 30% more to travel and 30% more to not worry about that bill.
That bill and other bills, like we don't have an electric bill. We do buy propane, but not it's not significant. I don't know. All those things kind of add up.
Mm-hmm.
We live pretty cheap.
Yeah.
We are maybe not super diligent and ahead of the game on saving for retirement, but we're doing what we love. So I guess it's a trade-off.
And saving some.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Having the time or just the even temporarily to get out of having significant bills and scraping by to kind of develop what you're wanting to do, that's important. And now that we've gotten established, we're doing okay. If we had to pay a lot of bills and all that in the years leading up to that, I don't think we would have been able to do it.
Yep. And we live apart from the city, so we don't have the many distractions of the city beyond like the cost of living in a city.
Mm-hmm.
We work at home, and we
don't
work
go
lot.
out that much.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but
yeah. I mean, it helps that we love what we do. So, and we got lucky because we are weavers, and we found weaving in New Mexico, and everything just lined up for us. I feel very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems a very strong weaving community. A lot of folks focused on that particular fiber arts here due to the, millennium of history. And that's a beautiful thing to be able to live in a place where there's like-minded.
Yeah.
And in the area is very receptive to fiber arts, even if they're not fiber artists. They're like, oh, I know about this, or I appreciate it, and I would love to buy some of it. We've gone to other parts of the country and done shows, and there are people that are interested, but it's not quite as high a percentage, it seems, as around here. So that helps to be well received by your community, I guess.
It seems to me in my, creative pursuit of this podcast and building a business as well, that having the freedom by reduced cost of living to focus your entire attention and not have to do, have a side gig or a night job or whatever, just allows so much more progress on your craft or in your artistic pursuit. Because when you have to divide yourself, it seems like you wouldn't get as far.
Yeah.
Would you say that's been true for you, to be able to just be solely focused and not have to go do a restaurant job or?
Oh, 100%. It's, I do have a separate job, and it does feel daunting, but it's 16 hours a month. So it's like hardly countable as an extra job. And even that's like a distraction to me. So yeah.
It's not something that you had to take on by necessity.
No, it's
because
passion and
it's working for the local fiber arts center
where we learned to weave. So yeah. But so we being 100%, and we, like, for example, it's just weaving we're constantly talking about it. We were talking about a particular loom, and I was like, I'd really like to weave on one of those. And the day after, somebody emailed me about that loom in the community. And so we're going to go meet with that person. And it's just, weaving is so alive here. It's a part of our world and a part of the greater community's world too. So it's wonderful.
Sounds like you're running into a lot of serendipity here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Everything usually lines up. There's been, bumps on the road over the years, but nothing significant enough to steer us away from the direction we've been going.
Yeah. So let's stay on passion for a minute and talk about how this particular housing type aligns with personal values that you hold.
Well, a lot of aspects of it. We use the water in our house 5 times before it goes back to the earth. Water comes from the rain, then it goes to our planters, and it waters our plants. comes from the rain, goes to our fixtures, and like the sink gray water waters the plants. Then it goes to a storage well and becomes our flush water for the toilet. Then goes outside and is put into a black water planter before it goes to the standard leach field. So the water element of an Earthship is for sure my favorite aspect and the one I'm most passionate about.
And I don't think that much water even makes it past the planter. The plants just
eat it
up and grow. And then we have solar power, so we're not dependent on the grid or however they're making electricity, which may or may not be sustainable.
The
heating,
reused materials.
the Earthship design, a key element is that it heats itself and stays cool heats itself in the winter and stays relatively cool in the summer. And so we don't have to burn wood or use gas or anything to heat the house or air conditioning or anything like that.
The house is buried on 3 sides, which keeps it under, even in these hotter summers, keeps it under 80 degrees, and it feels air conditioned almost all summer. And we just control the temperature by opening and closing the doors in the house. And then another thing is we've used a ton of recycled materials to build the house, and tires are one of the least sustainable things on the planet, or the least recyclable things. And so instead of just throwing them in a pile for the rest of the Earth's existence, we are filling them with dirt and making walls out of them in the house. The 2.5 foot wide walls is a reason that the temperature stays.
Yeah, they're like thermal batteries. So if you think of like a thin frying pan, if you heat it up, it'll heat it up. You can heat it up really quickly and then it'll cool down really quickly. But a thick cast iron takes a long time to heat up and a long time to cool down. So it's like months or a year-long temperature cycle. Like it takes forever for the walls to absorb all that warmth. And then they hold on to it for months and months and months. So it's not so much like a day-by-day temperature thing. It's like all year slowly going. And one aspect that's really nice is beyond that you don't have to have a wood stove, which is kind of messy and a hassle.
Toxic.
We don't. When we get home from being gone all day or being gone on a trip, it can be snowy and freezing cold outside. It's still warm inside.
Yeah, walking into the house at 4 a.m.
Start a fire and wait hours and kind of, it's just very comfortable. That's very nice.
Yeah.
I love
the little things that you start to appreciate.
Yeah.
We're just kind of incidental, I think.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your story to the work that you do. Were you weaving in Chicago, or has that been something?
No, we learned here in Espanola at the Espanola Valley Fiber Arts Center, where Dain is now on the board and I am the education coordinator, and we're very involved in every aspect of the center. We loved it since we learned about it, and only grown more and more active in the community.
We learned to weave. Our friend of ours had taken a class there, and we saw what they had made and thought that looked like fun, and we'd try it. And then we both took to it and just kept experimenting and learning and challenging ourselves. And
we started selling our
went
work
for it.
started selling work right away. I think the second work I made, people wanted to buy it. And then we were like, wow, we could just do this. And then we ran with it, and we're still weaving.
That's so awesome. And so had you always been interested in it, or were you searching for something to...
We'd always been interested in fabric and fiber and stuff like that. Not some specifically weaving. It was always, seemed interesting and magical, and all the fiber crafts from around the world and things that we had always been interested in. But kind of from an outsider's perspective, it didn't really seem, I don't know, it just never came up that it was like, here's a weaving class, learn to do it. We just thought, oh, that's something they do. But the Fiber Art Center was there, and that was our first step in just doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool, because we never know kind of when our calling comes to us, right?
Right.
And so you're in a community, as you mentioned earlier, that is very welcoming to this. So how has weaving within this lifestyle that you've created for yourself allowed you to, as you mentioned, you're able to save and you're kind of taking care of yourself? You want to share a little bit more about kind of how it is to be a working artist?
It can be stressful, having to make money off of your art. It can be really stressful to come up with new ideas, stressful wondering, is this going to keep working? What are we doing? But that is outweighed by the benefits of just when we do a sale, just hear, if we don't sell a lot, we still hear people appreciating it. Mm-hmm. So I think as long as we stay excited about it, it'll be reflected in our work. I encourage everyone to figure out how to go to work every day and enjoy what you're doing, because then you won't be as stressed, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tiring weaving all day, but we don't feel as drained, I think, as like when we had jobs working for somebody else, doing something that was like maybe not what we would choose to spend our days doing.
Mm-hmm. We feel satisfied at the end of a hard weaving day more than any other day, I think.
And we're both creative people, and quite often jobs don't really let you tap into your own personal creativity that much. But that creativity is so driving that even working hard all day, if you've got that inspiration, you've got your personal goal in mind, it just seems so much easier to, keep at it, not want to take a break all the time or something.
Yeah. Follow the beat of your own drummer and your own personal self-competition rather than competing in a world where everybody is kind of out to get to the next rung of the corporate ladder.
Right. The art, we're not good at promoting our stuff. We are just artists. It's funny, I'll see like people they aren't making very good art, but boy, are they good at selling it. So we're on the other spectrum. I think we're quite good at making the art, and then, we sell it like we're artists.
Yeah,
we're
not
true to the art.
We're not so good at networking or promotion.
In fact, the art world is a thing that we both are like, we are definitely detached from it. We don't have gallery representation and big shows because we're intentionally not a part of that world. It's not for us. It's not the path we're taking.
Yeah. Not after the prestige, more after the work?
The personal accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, if it came and fell into our lap, maybe,
Yeah.
you know, it's just that people, I think, have to really get out there and really,
It's a hustle.
yeah, like, but like, for example, we were at the Fiber Arts Center. We used to weave these blankets in the back, and somebody from the folk art market came, and we had some of our personal scarves and things that we had woven on hand, and he saw those and got the folk art market some people to sponsor us to go to India to participate in a ECOT textile symposium there, and then we went to another one in Thailand, and it wasn't like we got famous, but it felt cool.
We got recognized.
And we were like
it was wonderful.
in a scene of weavers that appreciated what we were doing, and we made some contacts, and we're still getting silk yarn from somebody we met there in India.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of the work, do you have a couple of pieces you wanna show?
Yeah.
You can start.
This is one that I just finished. I hand wove these scarves. They were just the gray and the maroon color, and then I folded it and clamped it between two circles of wood to resist this dye. Then dyed that, and then at the end, with a needle and thread, I went around the edge, scrunching it up, and then dipped that in some dye. So this is primarily what we call shibori techniques, which is like a fancy word for tie-dye.
Japanese word for tie-dye. And then this is a new one that I made, which is silk and cotton, and it's ECOT dyed. So all the dyeing was done beforehand, and then it was put on the loom, and then we draft our own patterns. So the pattern in here I made. Can you see it? I know. Can you see it? Go closer. And another one I did is recently I did these double weave pieces, and I sewed them and made them into collars, which was just a fun new design because I'm making scarves gets a little boring. So now I have a new collar design.
This is my previous project that I finished recently, and they're sort of scarf shawl mix.
Shawls.
They're like big enough to be a shawl, but they're thin enough that it could be a scarf. And it's got another little pattern that's all loom controlled, and then there's a little bit of this ECOT dyeing, so that's resist dyeing the warp before you put it on the loom. And this is made of cotton and silk.
This seems, as an outsider to the weaving community, this seems astounding to me that you you just picked up weaving. What was it in 2010?
2013.
So you've been
moved
doing
here
this
in 2010. Started weaving 3 years later.
Yeah. So you've been doing this for 11 years. And you have such amazing variety of technique, and it looks so I don't know. It looks like it couldn't possibly be handmade.
That's a review of weavers as well. The weaving in our community is mostly large yarn made to make people make rugs. Like traditionally, the Chimayo weavers and the Rio Grande weavers are rug weavers. So people are pretty surprised by the small size of the yarn we use, and we are just always looking for smaller and smaller yarn because it's what we like to make. Fine textiles.
It's funny, in America we'll show our stuff and people say, wow, you use such fine yarn. When we went to India and Thailand, they're like, wow, you guys use such big yarn.
You can't even, we have to get our yarn really from India because we need the small stuff. We can't, it's really hard to find it here in this country.
I see why you mentioned that earlier, that you can't find
the wool.
Yes, interesting. Well, good. As we're wrapping up, share with the audience where they could follow you or, ping you or what have you.
We have a website. We call ourselves the Warp Zone. Our website is warpzoneweaving.com, and our Instagram account is at Warp Zone with 2 E's at the end. Warp Zoney.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about how
that's it.
You'd find us.
There's a old blog about the house.
I don't even
pictures.
know if any of those pictures are linked anymore. Let's not talk about that.
I believe there is a link on the website. If you're really dedicated,
there might be.
You can follow that one.
We should do a final entry.
Yeah.
Well, Dain and Amanda, thank you so much for sharing your beautiful home and your beautiful work. Super excited to share this particular concept with the audience so that they too can consider what alternative housing options there are outside of conventional buildings. So I love to bring you as an example.
Thank you for interviewing us. We love sharing Earthship techniques to everybody. We're very pro Earthship. They're a really sustainable way to live.
Hey, I'm honored that you listened to this episode of Less House, More Moolah. I hope something in it will help you continue to move toward a life aligned with your values. Every algorithm out there is trying to tell us what to prioritize, but we get to choose. If you haven't ever identified your key values, I have a free resource on my website to help you. Just have to go to thetinyhouseadvisor.com. It's thetinyhouseadvisor.com. At the bottom of the page, you can grab the Tiny Life Values Worksheet. When we design a life around what is our core truth, we shortcut to deep fulfillment. See you next Thursday.
Please see the show notes for important disclosure regarding the Tiny House Advisor LLC and this episode.